I think I found the best use case for the new ChatGPT 4.0 Omni. Now, ChatGPT just announced their latest model that integrates multiple modalities, audio, vision, and text. And what OpenAI says sets them apart from their competitors is its advanced reasoning skills across different types of data and its cost effectiveness. And today, we are about to put that to a test. We will start by identifying a website or script, take a screenshot, and then passing that image to ChatGPT 4.0 Omni to extract the needed data. This tutorial is designed to be straightforward, and it provides you a powerful way to plug and play ChatGPT's powerful capabilities to your phone and then throwing it to be able to scrape data and give you the information that you want that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do with ChatGPT. Now, before we dive in, let's address the common question: why switch to a vision-based scraping when traditional methods like HTML and CSS selectors or Markdown-based scraping exist? The answer lies in reliability and versatility. Traditional methods can be cumbersome and break easily with website updates, while vision-based scraping is much more robust, especially when dealing with non-text data. And as AI models become more affordable, this will become more practical. So without further ado, let's get started. If you don't have VS Code, you know what to do. Just make sure you download VS Code. We are going to be building on top of this repository right here. And I want to shout out this GitHub user, Michal Hussein. If you're watching this video, shout out to you, okay? I uploaded this GitHub repo when I did my last video, and he took the time and went ahead and provided the README for this application. The README is nicely and well structured and tells you exactly what you need to do to basically have this set up locally on your machine. And you can do the same as well. Guys, I'm just starting to do YouTube, and YouTube is a lot of things you gotta juggle, okay? I truly apologize if something I'm explaining doesn't make any sense, and if it doesn't make any sense, leave a comment. I'm gonna make sure I answer it, or somebody else is gonna reach out and probably answer it for you. So don't hesitate to leave a comment below if you have any questions at all. If you got stuck through the tutorial or something like that and you don't know what to do, just reach out. Developers are the nicest people you're ever gonna meet. So we're all here to help you out. What are we gonna do today? Today we are gonna build on top of our application, okay? I want this to be ongoing. I want us to build this thing together. We don't know what it is yet, but we are gonna build this together. We need a better name. We can't just call this a Reddit researcher. This is going to be an application that is like a Swiss Army knife that can do a bunch of stuff, and it's not just gonna be researching Reddit. We wanted to do a lot more. We wanted to research other sites as well. So we need a better name for our application, guys. And if you have a better name, leave it below. We don't know what the prize is, but the winner is going to get a prize. And guys, you can contribute to this application as well. If you go over to GitHub and take a look at the application and you're like, I think this feature will look good on this application, you can clone this or make your changes and make a pull request, and we will review it together. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, even if you don't know what you're doing, just go play around with it, add some features. That's how we learn, okay? Make a pull request, and if it's good, I'm going to merge it and we will talk about it in subsequent videos. So if you want to shout out, do this, go to GitHub, make your contributions. And this is a great way as well if you're starting out to start making contributions to repositories on GitHub. This is a great way for you to do that. So you can talk about it in interviews that you made contributions to GitHub repos, okay? Exercise that muscle right here. So what are we going to do today? We are going to clone our application and build on top of that. The way you do that is you can either download a zip file on your computer and then just open it up that way, or you can go with an easier approach and just clone the entire thing together with GitHub's configuration so that you don't have to connect this repository to your local repository. It's all done for you when we clone it this way. So this is what we are going to do. You're going to copy this, okay? One other thing you need is you need to install Python, and Python installation is pretty simple. Just go to python.com and just download this onto your computer. It's going to come with Python's package manager. The version we are going to be using is pip3. Let's start from the desktop. Make a folder on your desktop or your documents folder, wherever you want this application to be at. It's up to you. And we're just going to name it Trend Analysis App. Just open up your VS Code. We're going to go to the terminal. And the way you go to the terminal is either by going to the tab and then clicking terminal and then hit a new terminal, or you can do Control backticks, okay? And it's going to open up the terminal. So we have the terminal open, and we're gonna do git clone. Then you paste the URL we got from GitHub earlier. It's gonna clone the application into our folder. Actually, guys, before we do this, let's make sure we are in the right folder. So file, open folder, navigate to your desktop or wherever you have your application set up. In my case, trend analysis app, and open it. It's going to open up a new VS Code window nicely for us. Okay, now we need a terminal. So just new terminal or control backtick. So to open our terminal. Now we can do a git clone and then paste the URL we copied from GitHub and just press enter, and just like that, it's downloaded it into our folder. So over here, this is our application and our server. If you actually want to understand what we are doing today, you can go back to the last video and catch yourself up and come back to this video, or you can stay on this video as well. We are going to be implementing something different, but just so you don't get too overwhelmed or too confused, just watch my last video. So over here is where we communicate with our Slack application. Remember, when we send a message through Slack, it listens for the word and it goes to subreddit and then does the research for us. So uses the text we sent it and then uses it as a subreddit name and basically go look into subreddit with that text. Today we are going to take this a step further. We're going to be doing that as well, but we're also going to be looking out for URLs. And when we receive a URL to a website, what we want to do is to first of all check if it's a URL. And if it's a URL, what we're going to do is we're going to use ChatGPT's vision. So before, the way you would script websites is by using puppeteers or any of those tools, and basically you have to use very specific tags and class names, which are ever changing, by the way. I think this is a better approach, such that you can go to any website you want to and just take a screenshot of the website, come over to ChatGPT and ask it to interpret the photo, right? And it's going to interpret it, take out the words out of the photo and turn it into something beautiful that makes sense. It could be market analysis, analyze data from the stock market or whatever, and then maybe tell us what to do next. Let ChatGPT's general intelligence help you with that. So that's what we're going to be doing. In order to make sure everything is running correctly, we have to make sure our application is running. The first thing you do when you download is to just make sure you set in your env file, because this is important. This provides a configuration that allows other application to speak to our application. So there are some environment variables in our application that we need to address all of them, or else our application is not going to work. So just go through each file and just look out for those type of global variables that are all caps. If you see something that is all caps, it tells you that might be environment variables. So we do not need Reddit client ID, Reddit secret, and all of that for today. So I'm just going to leave that for now. But if this is something you are setting up locally, just make sure you have these set up. And if you don't know how to do this, just watch my previous video where I walk you through going to the Reddit API and basically plugging in these values. So in order to have your application run as well, just make sure you set this up. Like I said, we tackled this in the previous video. So just make sure you set this up and you should be good to follow along from this point. So if you do not have the setup, go do it and I will be waiting for you. Maybe not, but this video will be waiting for you. Make sure when you set in the .env file, make sure it's in this folder. Make sure it's not outside this folder. And the way you check that is by clicking on this arrow. I just set up the Slack sign-in secret, Slack bot token. So I think we should be good to run this application now. I'm just going to run our script, okay? So if you're having this error, just run this command, cd reddit research error. And I'm spelling it wrong. I spelled research error, guys. That's my fault. We are in our directly now, so I can run Python 3 API that. In order to have our application running properly, we still have our old application that requires certain things like environment variables to be able to run. So we don't want that to run right now. So we're just going to turn a few things off. So just come to your code, just come to your API.py code, turn all of these researcher crew, turn all of those off. Command / okay would comment them out, and where we are printing the results, we are just going to send back the text. So just change this to text, change this to text, then come into the crews file and just comment this out, comment the LLM out, because this is going to be looking for this API key once this application loads. So we don't want it to do anything. We don't actually need it right now. So just turn all of these things off so it doesn't give us any issues when trying to run this application. And once you run Python 3.py, our server should be running, as you can see here. Okay. In order to test this, we can go to Slack. Okay, so let's go. And this is the channel we connected earlier in the last video. So I'm just gonna say hey. And then let's go back to our application and nothing happens, guys. One last thing, guys. In order to have our application running properly, we need to expose our API to Slack, because Slack do not have a local context of our application, right? If you do not have Grok installed, just come over to Grok's website. Copy this. Okay, this is for Mac users. For Windows users, you can use this command right here. So I'm just going to go back to my VS Code. Whilst our server is running, we're just going to open up a new terminal. And the way you open up a new terminal is by clicking this plus button right here. It's just going to open up a new terminal without disrupting the old one. So I'm just going to paste this here. And once you hit enter, it should install. So it has installed. And once it's installed, all you need to do is to run this command ngrok http, and our server is running on 3000. So just make sure you put your server here and then enter. And this is basically going to expose our application to the outside world. So you can basically take this URL and take it outside your network, and you will have access to your application basically. So I'm just going to copy this link. This is still not going to communicate with our application unless we do one more thing, guys. Because we run this command, we are given a completely totally different URL from the one we provided Slack. Okay, so Slack right now do not have access to this URL, so we need to go back to our application on Slack and add that URL. Okay, so let's do that. Just come to api.slack.com, and if you already have this set up from the last video, you should be able to click on your application right here. And if you don't have it, just create a new app. In this case, we're going to be using this one that made earlier. And once you have your application open, what you want to do is to come to enable events. Okay, and we're going to change this URL to we want to change the URL to this. Okay, so I just want to make sure this is right. So we want to change the URL to this. We want to add this up to the end of the URL ngrok gave us. So make sure you add //events before you throw that URL in here. So I'm just going to throw it in here, and it should verify it. And all you need to do is hit save, and it's going to save it. Okay, this step is very important. You can go to our Slack application, go to the Slack channel. Remember, we set the Slack channel up earlier, and we can communicate with our application now. Now, guys, we are communicating with our application. So now we need to do one thing. So now we are getting a text back from Slack. And if you take a look at a terminal, we are getting the text back from Slack. We just need to do something with it. Before, what we did was we sent it to our research crew to basically research the text on site subreddit. Now we're going to do something quite different. We're still going to allow it to do this, but we are basically going to watch out for what the input was. And I know what some people are thinking. Oh, why don't you just use the terminal as input? I don't know. I think the reason why I'm doing this is because I think it makes sense to connect this API to some sort of UI, okay? Whether it's a chat application or whether it's your own front-end UI application, it's basically the same. And I do that because you can set this up and don't have to really think about your application. Your application can be running on your local server, and you could be anywhere in the world. As long as you have Slack, you can communicate with your application. This is what it's for. But it also means that your computer gotta be running all the time. So keep that in mind. What we want to do here is We want to check our text. We want to say if s URL, okay, if text is URL, okay, do something, okay, if text is URL, okay, handle URL, okay, else we have this, else just needs a return statement. Nope. Okay, so if the text we get it back, if it's URL, let's do something else. If it's not, let's have it run the way it was running before. Let's let it go do the Reddit research. And I'm just going to turn this off for now. So right now we need to check if our text is a URL. And how we do that? Just define this function up top, and it's basically regex that would detect a particular URL pattern and return true if it matches and return false if it doesn't. Just make sure you go up top and then just import array, and we should be good to go. So now we can test this out. We can say this text is a URL, and just send our text back. Make sure you kill your application and rerun it again. I'll go back to our Slack app, and okay, so I know where this is coming from. This is coming from here, guys. Okay, so this is coming from here. So if we go back to Slack, you will see that result. But what happens when we send a URL? Let's say google.com. What happens? Oh, we start getting results. What is going on? What is going on? This URL. Okay, so we are getting an error here. Let's debug this. Let's print as URL or not. Let's kill our server, rerun it again. Something is wrong here. Right, so guys, I think I know why we're having the error. If I go back to our application and type google.com, still bringing results, and it's saying false. And when we console log the text out, you see what it does. It just doesn't return as the text because it's a URL. For some reason, it puts these brackets around the URL. So one thing we can do is to check if this URL contains brackets. And the way we do that is using this code. We just check if text starts with a bracket or whatever you call it, and ends with the other bracket. Just equate text to removing those brackets. So Slack doesn't want us to send back the URL, I think for security reasons, of course. So let's just send back this text, and then over here let's just say this is a text, and let's go back to our application, and you see that this text is a URL, guys. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're not sending back the URL to Slack. It's going to reject it. So now we are detecting if it's a URL. And if it's a URL, we are going this route. This is now the time to do some magic. If this is a URL, we need to do something else with it instead of what we did before. So this is where we need another crew. Right here, we have a research crew, or should we call it a Reddit research crew? Let's define a new class. Let's call this, guys, you want to make sure these namings are appropriate. Right now, when I'm going off the cuff, I'm trying not to think about naming too much. But if you are working on a real world application, you want to take the time to really name these files and methods and variables properly, because you are going to be dealing with it in the future. In the future, if you come back to this and you're like, what does this do? Why is it named like that? If it does this, why is it named this way? It should have been named that way. Rough made sense. So naming is really important. Basically, someone can see at the naming and be able to tell what exactly that is supposed to do, right? So naming is important. So just take your time with naming. Just make sure it's appropriate. Like this one, research crew doesn't really say anything. If this application expands and expands, this becomes really useless because there could be several other research crews, okay? So naming is something like Reddit research crew would have been more appropriate. You're more specific. So let's try and be more specific here. So over here, we're just going to say website script crew. And we're going to have to define a constructor as well. Text, it's going to be a URL, okay? And we're going to need, we're going to need all of this. So I'm just going to copy all of this. Okay, we're gonna need all of this. Just gonna copy this. And the next step with this crew is to define our agents and task. So this is where we define who our agents are going to be and our tasks. And we're going to use the same files. Actually, guys, we can take this, okay? Take this and put it outside of the class. So we can have access to it everywhere. Just take that, put it outside of the class like this. So let's leave this for now and let's go to our agents. We need to create some more agents. So over here at our agents file, we have our researcher, we have our technical writer, and we have our critic. We are going to need 3 more agents, guys. Who are the agents we are going to need? We're going to need a scripter agent. We're going to need an analyzer that would basically take the script data and analyze it. We're going to need a reviewer, just like we had a critic agent here. But of course, let's make sure we naming these appropriately. Okay, so let's make sure these make sense. So what are we scraping? Website scraper agent. So let's name this website scraper, and let's name the script data analyzer. And this one, let's name it script data reviewer. This could be a contribution for someone. Earlier I was talking about how you can contribute to this application. You can go and basically rename this appropriately and make a pull request. That's a contribution. So of course these are methods. So let's turn them into methods. So these are going to receive some properties. We don't know what properties yet. What do we have here? So it's definitely going to receive a self, and then it's probably going to receive a website URL as well. So self and URL, okay, self URL, and this is probably going to receive self, no URL, okay, maybe URL later, and return an agent from crew agent, okay. And remember, an agent has a role, has a goal, has a backstory, and a couple of these properties. All right, guys, so just to speed things up a bit, I provided this agent with a role, right? Data scraper, right? With a goal, right? Scrape relevant data from this website that we'll be providing it, and then a backstory, right? And we're gonna need tools for the scraper as well, but we're gonna come back to that. But let's do the same for the rest. So guys, I just went ahead and did the same thing for the rest. So we have our website scraper, we have a script data analyzer, and then we have our script data reviewer. This is basically maybe like a manager that is going to basically take the input from this guy and then just make sure they're doing the data correctly. Just make sure the output is correct and everything looks good. So make sure you have this set up for the 3 additional agents we just created. Now it's time to assign them some tasks. So let's assign them some tasks. So if we come to our crew tasks, okay, add some more tasks. Okay, how many tasks do we need here? We need script website, right? We need a task to analyze a script. Okay, and we need review. So we need these 3 tasks. Okay. I'm just gonna speed this up. The drill. We're turning these into methods. So this is gonna need self. It's gonna need agent. It's gonna need same. This is going to need same. And what does task need? First, we need to return the task from crew AI. We need to return task from crew AI, and basically pass on these properties: description, an agent, and an expected. What do you call it? Expected output. We also need a URL here. So guys, I went ahead and did the first task, script website. So it needs self, it needs agent, it needs a URL. And this is the description. Your task is to scrape data from this website, extract relevant information such as headlines, articles, stock prices, trading volumes, market sense, anything you can find. And then we just assign the agent here and then the expected output. And I'm just going to repeat the same thing for the rest. So analyze script data, takes in a self agent URL, and this is the description. Your task is to write engaging summary based on script data from this URL, and then summarized data for URL key trends, articles, user reviews, statistics, articles. You can fine tune this as you like, guys. You can fine tune this as you like. And over here, we have the review script website. We have the reviewer, right? And his job is just to, we have a description here to basically make sure the information is presented in a way. Do not use jargon, split sentences, or use bullets where relevant, and use short, punchy sentences. And this is the output. Title of the report: Interesting Fact 1, that they wrap with the lesson transformational code lens in the end. All right. So we are done with setting up our task, and you can pause this video and do this exact same thing. So now is the time to go back to our crew and basically set up our crews. So here we need to bring in our agents, right? And who were our agents? Our agents were who? The scraper agent, the scraper, analyzer, and the reviewer. So let's equate the scraper to who? Agents that we already define our agents and tasks here. So we just bringing down agents here. And who are we looking for? We're looking for the website scraper, and we need to pass in a few things. We need to pass in the URL. What is the URL? Solve the text. Okay. Solve that text, which is basically the URL coming in from Slack. There's a text coming in from Slack. So the analyzer is what equal to agents. Same thing. Script data analyzer is what we're looking for. Make sure you are referencing the correct agents, or else this is not going to work. Script data reviewer. On VS Code, once you instantiate the class and assign it to a variable, the properties within there, once you put the, let me show you. Once you put a dot, you get options to all of the methods within it. So these are all the methods we defined within our agents class. So we're looking for the reviewer, data scraper reviewer, and it's also going to return the URL. So the next thing we need to set up is tasks or script, and this is equal to task that. We're looking for script website. If you look right here at the top, guys, you see the values we need to pass, and we need to pass in the agent, which can be any, URL, which can be any. So in this instance, we just pass in we need to pass in the URL. So in this case, agent is going to be a scraper, and then URL is going to be equal to solve that text. So just take your time here and make sure you set things up correctly, and analyze task. Okay, and analyze script or website is what we're looking for. And again, this needs the analyzer agent. So just make sure you have this correctly set up. And the last task is going to be the review task, and this is equal to task that view script website. It's going to take the reviewer as an agent and then the URL. And this is where we just need to tie everything up and send everything over to crew AI. So the way we do that is solve that crew be equal to crew, that exactly that here, capital crew, and it's going to need agents. It's going to need agents. It's going to need tasks. It's going to need processes. It's going to need process, and it's going to need a manager LLM. Let's pass in our agents: scraper, analyzer, and reviewer. That's it. And the task, we're going to need a script side task. Let's pass in the scripts task, the analyze task, not the analyzer, and then the review task. And process is going to be process that, same as this, process that sequential, and LLM is going to be the LLM, which we're going to reactivate in a second. And guys, make sure all of these, there's comments between all of these. So just make sure there's comments between all of these. And let's define a results equal to solve that crew that kickoff, like we did here. All right, solve that results equal to solve that crew that kickoff. And one last thing we need to do is to define get results and that is basically going to return results. Make sure the self that results. Make sure you passing self into the function. It just means that this is bound into this class. So just make sure you passing self into this. And I think we're done setting up our crew, guys. We just need to reactivate our LLM, and I'll show you how to. Let's reactivate these, and we need to set up an OpenAI API key. So this is what we're gonna do. Just go to platform.openai.com. Also make sure you logged in, guys. And then over here, I'm just gonna go to API keys and create new API key. Let's name our API trend analysis. Just make sure all of these names are consistent so you don't confuse yourself later. So create API key, and bam, it's going to create an API key for us. Copy this. Okay, copy this. I'll come back into our application and go to the env. Over here, you should already have your Slack and should already have your, what do you call it? Your Slack bot and then your Slack signing in secret already set up in here. So I'm just going to add an additional one, OpenAI API key, and just paste the API key right here, and it should be good to go. So we have this set up, so this should be good and we should be working. So this is what we have so far, website scraper crew. And now we need to import this into our API and send information down here. Actually, guys, I almost forgot one more thing. We forgot to set up the tools. If you remember, website scraper needs a tool. So let's just say plus human tools. Go to your tools file, and I'm going to create another tool here. This tool is going to be script website, and it's going to take in a URL. All right. And also, let's also make sure that it has a tool decorator, or else it's not going to work. So just make sure you have the tool decorator at the top. Script website, and it also requires you define this as well, or it's not going to work. Guys, this is where we are going to need a tool called Selenium. Just go to your terminal and just do it pip. I use a version 3, so pip 3. Yours might be pip install Selenium and hit enter, and it's just going to install into our machine. Like I was saying earlier, one way to spy on other websites or know what is going on other websites is by scraping the data on there, right? So it's basically manual work, knowing what the HTML tags are of the web application and everything, and plug it into it's basically like reverse engineering the other application in your application, which is a lot of work, right? With this, we can just take a screenshot of the application, and that's all we need, right? To be able to feed that screenshot into ChatGPT and let it interpret the data within the screenshot. So I think this is a much cleaner approach. Selenium allows us to basically browse web applications and take screenshots. So we're going to import a web driver from Selenium. And right after you do that, just define a variable called driver and equate it to the web driver. And the web driver we imported right here at the top. And you can choose your browser of choice. I'm just going to pick Chrome for now, but this is up to you. Now we can use the variable we just defined, the driver variable we just defined right here at the top. So we can do something like driver.get, okay, and pass in our URL. It's basically going to go out there and browse the application for us, right? If you want to, you can basically return everything that is being passed on by the script data and pass it along to ChatGPT to try to make sense of it. And ChatGPT probably will make sense of the website, but I think this is much cleaner. This is my opinion. Either way, you are not wrong, but this I feel like is much cleaner. We need an image, okay? So I'm just gonna define a variable called PNG data because the default image that comes from Selenium is PNG, and I'm just gonna say driver that we can either return it as a PNG, okay, or we can return it as a base 64. It's still a PNG, it's still an image, but it's on base 64, if that makes sense. This will makes it so much easier to pass along to ChatGPT. Okay, so let's select base 64 here. You can remove this. So get screenshot as base 64. Alright guys, we also need to import one more package from OpenAI. Import OpenAI. Make sure you import them this. And what we are going to do with it is to define a client and equate it to OpenAI. Over here, it needs a property called API key, and we're just going to equate this to OS.getEnv, and we just need to pass OpenAI API key that we created earlier. Just import it right here and assign it to client. So over here, what we can do is define a response variable and equate it to client that chat that completion that create. Saying client is not defined. What did we name it here? So we named it wrong here. So make sure you name this correctly, guys. Right. So this requires a model, and this requires messages. And the model we're using here is GPT-4o. Just make sure there's a comma. And messages. And these need to be defined in JSON format. Messages has a role and takes in content. And the role here is user, and the content is going to take an array of an array of a bunch of stuff. One of them is an object type text, and the text is going to be created JSON structure for all of the items in the photo. Return only a JSON structure. Okay, so we're just giving it a text here to return all of the items in the JSON structure, just to make it a little bit easier for. We could just send exactly what it sees in the photo, right? And we just dump it into our analyzer, right? But we want to make it easier for an analyzer to interpret, right? So we're just going to return the information in the JSON structure. So guys, the next thing you want to pass in is the image, right? The type is image URL. And then the content we pass in is image URL. The way we can send this image as a URL, okay, to ChatGPT to interpret is by defining something like this, right? And remember, everything got to be in JSON. So URL and F, then quotation marks. And we're going to define something right before we pass in our PNG data here. We have data column image / PNG semicolon base 64. And this is where we need to pass in our image to ChatGPT. And we're looking good. Last thing is to print out the response, and we need to quit right from our Selenium. We need to quit from scraping the web. So remember our driver variable we defined earlier here. We call the quit method on it and then just return the response. And this is our tool, guys. This is our tool that is going to go out there and scrape the web for us. This is our tool. We just need to bring this into our agents. So inside agents, we can call tools, and then remember the tool we defined, script website. Same on it here, and I think we should be good to go, guys. So let's test out our application, guys. So make sure your development server isn't running, and just run your Python. Actually, guys, hold up, guys. Let's go back to our API. Let's see what we're doing here. We're actually not doing anything at all, guys. We're actually not doing anything at all. This is where we need to bring in, let's borrow from here, okay? And this is not the research crew. This is a website script crew. This is the guy we're looking for, not a research crew. Let's go over here, copy this guy. Come here on top, make sure we are importing him as well. Down here, let's just make sure we are instantiating that, and then we passing in the URL, which is the text. We need to equate that to a variable. So okay, so let's just equate that to a variable and summon that here and then get results. Okay, so now we should have our results, and I think we should be good now. So let's test this out. So let's run our application, and it's running. Let's go to Slack, and I'm just going to provide it with some sort of like stock market website. For instance, we can try to interpret data like this. So let's attempt to do something like this and let it interpret whatever is going on in the stock and cryptocurrency. So let's attempt to do that. So I'm gonna pass this URL in here, and hopefully we get error. We get an error, guys. This is the error, guys. Over here on review script website, we expecting agent. Let's see what we passing. Over here, we passing the agent, we passing the URL. So we don't need to pass in the URL. So we can delete that. Make sure everything within the chat completion is correct, right? It looks exactly like this, and you can reference the GitHub repo to make sure that it looks exactly like this, else you're gonna run into some issues. Let's run our application one more time. It's up and running, and let's use this URL. It's browsing coingecko.com, taking a screenshot, storing as thin. As you can see, guys, it's working. The expert writing critic is working right now. I made a huge mistake. Don't do what I did. Don't do self. This is supposed to be self.result. So we passing this value to this class. So just make sure self.result. So this is going to make sure we're returning that value. So don't make the same mistake. And then let's run the application again. Here's the URL. Just wait. There we have it. We have a comprehensive report from this website. Key trends, the crypto market, diverse beast. So it gives us insights. It basically took the website, interpreted it, and came out with useful information that we can, like, look at right here. Recommendation: volatile is your friend. Strategize to benefit from price fluctuation. But remember, high risk is the other side of the coin. So guys, I gave it another website, okay, to see the usefulness of the information coming back. And this information was even more useful, okay? From the crypto market at a glance, Bitcoin bull run. Bitcoin is flexing its muscle with a growth of 1.47% in the last hour, 2.39 in the last 24 hours, and a whooping 10 point over the last week, okay? You can see it brings back some really useful analysis that you can use. You can even train it further into a way that it gives you even more useful information that you are particularly looking for, okay? Hopefully you got something out of this, and if you did, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this. And if you have any issues or run into any issues, leave a comment below and I would try to address it. This is it, guys. If you like this video, you will like my previous video where it was basically the beginning of this. So you want to catch up on that video, go back to my previous video, and it should pop up anywhere here on the screen.